Good evening, students. So today we are again continuing with our topic that's useful and harmful microbes, which is our lesson number 8 from the textbook. Last time we have covered with two important useful microbes, which includes lactobacilli and rhizobium, which we studied for nitrogen fixation. Along with it, we also went through a brief that was regarding uses of lactobacilli, and we studied about probiotics, the useful drinks which has beneficial bacteria or beneficial microbes which helps our body to eradicate bad bacteria and helps in the process of digestion. So today we will be learning one more new bacteria. No, it's one more new fungus which we actually consume in our food. All right. And the name of that fungus is nothing but yeast. So what is yeast? Have you heard about this? Where do we add yeast? Yes, correctly said. We use yeast while we prepare any baking items, unlike bread. Correct? Yes. Now, what is actually yeast? Yeast is nothing but a fungus. Have you ever seen yeast in its raw form? Very difficult to identify. Yeah, we usually get the processed yeast, which is the activated or dry yeast. Again, there are two types of yeast which can be used. One which we obtain into a powder form, and other one which is there in slight liquidish form. Okay, so let's understand what is yeast one by one. The diagram in front of you is nothing but the powdered dried form of yeast. What do? We add this yeast into warm water so that it will be soaked for a while, so that our yeast becomes activated, and then we use this yeast while kneading the dough. Okay? So today we are going to learn how is bread made, or how do we bake a bread, and what is the role of yeast in bread making. Now, when I am seeing the microscopic image, or I can say the ultra microscopic image of this yeast, it will look something like this. Now, you will wonder, in the diagram, there are few drops-like structures. Yes, this drop-like structure is nothing but the fungus. And at the right end, you will see that there is small bud-like structure. This is exactly how yeast reproduces asexually. And this method is called as budding. What happens? A normal, or I can say an adult fungus, will develop a small notch-like structure. Slowly and steadily, this notch-like structure will start developing, and it will take its nutrition from the parent body itself. And this bud-like structure will get detached from the parent body, as you can see over here, and it will develop into a new individual. This method is called as asexual reproduction, known as budding. Okay? So let's understand yeast one by one. Yeast is a unicellular fungus. That means the entire body of the fungus or of the organism consists of only single cell. Yeast are small single cell organisms that feed on simple sugars. Now, what are simple sugars? Can you give me an example? Do we consume simple sugars? Yes, we do. Now, can I say, is glucose an example of sugar? Or is lactose an example of sugar? Yes, correctly said. If you have OSE at the ending, it could be glucose, it could be lactose, it could be galactose. If you have such names ending with OSE, all such are nothing but examples of different sugars. So this yeast, which is fungus, feed on sugar. Okay? Okay. Now, the point which we have already studied, they reproduce asexually by budding. Correct? One more thing. What type of cell is yeast? Is yeast a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell? What do you think? We have studied different types of animal classification. Yeah, lesson number 1, which was classification of microbes. In that, we have also studied fungus. So tell me, is fungus a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell? I hope you know the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Pro is primitive type of cell and eukaryotic is the new or advanced type of cell. Yes. So fungus comes in the advanced type. Therefore, yeast is a eukaryotic cell. Now I want you to quickly give the heading. Write down these features that yeast is unicellular, eukaryotic, and feeds on simple sugar. That's it. Only 3 points. It's unicellular fungus, feeds on simple sugar, reproduces asexually by budding, and is eukaryotic in nature. Giving you half a minute's time. For all those doubts you are sending me on the chat box, ensure that the one from which you are able to hear me, you'll see that icon that I'm unmuted from an account. You can send the message on the same account. And this question is always does in fill in the blanks that yeast reproduces asexually by which method. So don't forget budding. Now, I hope you all know that every living organism has a scientific name. Yes? For example, lactobacilli. What is it? It's the scientific name of a bacteria, correct? Now, do you know that a scientific name consists of 2 names? The first name is called as genus name, whereas second name is called as species name. So genus name will always start with a capital letter and species name will always start with a small letter. Now, when I'm saying lactobacilli, lactobacilli is a genus name or a species name? Correct. Lactobacilli is the genus name. That means when we studied the useful microbe lactobacilli, species name was not mentioned, right? Similarly, this yeast is a fungus. So can I say this fungus will also have a scientific name? Yes. And the scientific name of this yeast, which we are going to study, is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Seems difficult? No, it's easy. Understand. Let us divide. How do we need to pronounce this? The first will be sacro. Then my. Ces, C-E-S. It's easy. Saccharomyces. So we have splitted the first word. Let's move on to the species name. The first one will be Cere, C-E-R-E. VCI, V-I-S-I, it's VC. And A is only the pronunciation of A and E. I want you all to write this word and underline in the same breaks. So the name of the yeast becomes Saccharomyces cerevisiae. For all of you who think that this topic is omitted or Saccharomyces is not there, let me be very clear. You have same chapter on microbes in your 10th standard on your lesson number 10. You have similar kind of chapter in even in your next year, for your next year, which is your lesson number 10, Introduction to Microbiology. And same 20% of the portion of this lesson is going to be asked in the next year as well. So we cannot skip anything. And also make note that you write that Saccharomyces cerevisiae is the scientific name of yeast. Done? And in this particular chapter, since now you are into 9th standard and a biology student, you need to make a habit that you revise these names, because every small spelling mistake will cause -half marks. So ensure that you start practicing such names by writing as well. And it's easy. Every day you'll have to recite it at least 10 to 20 times. Saccharomyces cerevisiae, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Okay? Now let's understand the process of bread making. And where are we going to learn yeast? Now, as we saw in the last slide, that this yeast fungus feeds on simple sugars. So can I say our flour, it could be of wheat, it could be of any other cereal, our flour contains some sugar, right? Yes, because it is carbohydrates in its nature. Yes, exactly, glucose. So what are these steps? Number one, we take a flour, we add yeast to it along with warm water. Then we start kneading it. And after we have kneaded it, what we get is a dough. Correct? Now, can I take this dough and immediately put it in the oven for baking, or I will have to wait for a while? Yes, I'll have to wait for a while. And what will happen in this process is this yeast, which is a living microbe, will start consuming carbon. No, will start consuming sugars, right? And once the yeast starts consuming sugars, it is obviously going to give some output. If there is some input, it is going to give some output, correct? And the output will be in two formats. One will be liquid and other one will be gas. Now you will wonder which liquid is it. If you have ever baked any bread at your home, there isn't any liquid in the tray. Why? Because due to that extreme high temperature, liquid, which is nothing but ethanol, which is produced, gets evaporated. Now let's have a look at this. What is this? This is how the dough will look after yeast has worked on it. Right? What will the yeast do? It will consume the sugars, and what we'll get is CO2, that's carbon dioxide, along with alcohol. To be very specific, this alcohol is called as ethanol. Can you see the meshwork like thing in the glass bowl? The dough is not as even as it was. Can I say that the size of the dough has increased a bit? Yes. It has fluffed up. Yes. And we also see that whenever we get bread, there is a lot of network like thing, a lot of meshwork. If you open a bread or a bun, there's a lot of pores into it. Pores are nothing but small holes, right? So these holes are produced as the CO2 expels from this dough, because CO2 cannot be trapped. So when the CO2 bubbles expel, they create this hole-like structures. And therefore, the dough rises and it becomes fluffy. Always remember, fermented products are more nutritious than the normal food. Expel ka meaning is to leave from particular place, to take an exit. This is called as expulsion of CO2. Okay, now as I said that the yeast is going to consume sugar and convert it into ethanol and CO2, right? This process is called as fermentation. Now let's understand this in stepwise manner. What have we done? We have added flour and yeast. Flour is nothing but sugar, and yeast is nothing but Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Correct? What then after we have baked it, what do we get as our end product? Number one will be bread, of course. Number two will be ethanol, which is nothing but alcohol. And what will happen due to such a high temperature, this ethanol will get evaporated. Now CO2 will again get evaporated. So visually, we will be only able to see the bread fluffed up and smell it. The freshly baked products will give you more smell like an alcohol. Okay? Now I quickly want you to write this reaction. Flour plus yeast gives you bread plus ethanol plus CO2. And beneath that, you need to write sugar, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and alcohol in brackets. So we don't add ethanol. Ethanol is produced in this process. Similarly, in the process of curd formation, we don't add curd for production of curd. It's the single sample which we add initially. Here, our yeast is fungus, right? So it is going to eat sugar, and as a result, after digesting the sugar, it is going to give two outputs. One will be ethanol, and second will be CO2. Okay, now let's move on to our next slide. This slide mentions different steps of bread making. The first one, as we said, we've added warm water, sugar to activated yeast. We've added this mixture with more water, salt, and we've kneaded it nicely to make a smooth and shiny dough in step number 3. In step number 4, we have left the dough at the same place for 1 to 3 hours. What change are we observing is the dough rises. Now, after the dough has risen, we are kneading it again. Why do we do that? So that excess amount of CO2, which is already trapped, we remove that excess amount of CO2. And now we load it in a tray where the dough is going to take a specific shape. Okay? So after summarizing this, what happens is Saccharomyces cerevisiae converts the sugar into ethanol and CO2. And this entire process is called as fermentation. So what you have to do right now, the reaction which you have written, above the arrow, you will be writing fermentation. Done? Okay. Now let's understand how is yeast useful in bioremediation. Now what is bioremediation? Let's understand this first. Remediation is using something for remedy, using something as solution for a specific problem. And bioremediation means using a remedy for living being. Understanding? So now we have two things in which yeast is used as solution for some problems. Let's understand these problems first. That's a new word for you. Now, how do we pronounce this? It is pronounced as Yarovia lipolytica. You can first underline Yarrow, Y-A-R-R-O. Make second underline as W-I-A, via. This becomes Yarovia. And the genus name is Lipolytica. First you will break lipo and then lytica as second half of the same name. So it's the same or one name which includes both genus name and species name. Okay, so let's understand what is Yarovia lipolytica. It is nothing but a type of yeast. And what is yeast? Yeast is a fungus. Now in front of you, what you're able to see is a glass petri dish inside which we grow fungus in laboratory. Okay? This white color things is nothing but the grown fungus. Now let me take a very small particle from this petri dish and let me magnify this under ultra microscope or under electron microscope. And how will it look? It will look something like this. Okay. Now, what is the actual application of Yarovia lipolytica, or why are we studying this? It plays a very, very important role. Can you see the image? That's where metals are processed, and such processes are called as industrial processes of metal extraction or metal production. And while these metals undergo their industrial process, lot of toxins are given out. Even when we produce palm oil, lot of toxins are given out. Now, what are toxins? Toxins are harmful things which can cause a severe damage. Now, where are we using this Yarovia lipolytica? So this specific fungus will help us in reducing these toxins. Now, how? Because this fungus will actually feed on the toxins which are produced in these processes. So do not forget that Yarovia lipolytica will help in absorption of toxins which are produced in industrial processes of metal and minerals, as well as the toxins produced during palm oil production. I want you all to write this name, Yarovia lipolytica, with the last line, because there are three important names. First being Yarovia lipolytica and two more to come, which are always asked for MCQs. Now question arises, how do we put there? First thing, you don't handle them manually. They are just sprayed over wherever toxins are present. Now, this is how various microbes are used in order to reduce pollution. Otherwise, the people or labor working over there are exposed to these toxins and they undergo various infections and diseases. And these diseases are due to heavy metal toxicity. Okay, now let's understand the second important yeast. Yes, the one which we just studied in bread production or in bread making, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Now, what do we have to study Saccharomyces cerevisiae in bioremediation? So there is an element called as arsenic. It is a metalloid. It includes properties of both metals as well as non-metals. Most of the time, this arsenic is getting mixed with the groundwater, and we use groundwater for drinking. Therefore, there are many cases where we, even in history, had arsenic pollution. Now, this pollution leads to water pollution. Arsenic pollution leads to water pollution, because of which there are damages done to the skin, or whichever parts get exposed to this arsenic element or metalloid, the skin gets damaged and there are small holes getting produced on the external layer of the skin, which is again dangerous for humans, and it results into something like this. Yes, that's because of arsenic pollution. People who go and collect water for drinking, and because the water is polluted, this is how their feet and palm becomes. Why? Because the skin is directly exposed to arsenic. Now, what do we do? Now, here again, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, it helps in consuming this arsenic because it becomes its food. And how do we use it? We use this Saccharomyces into water which is already polluted with arsenic. And then slowly and eventually, we understand that the yeast starts growing. And as the population of yeast grows, the amount of arsenic present starts decreasing. This is how we make use of this yeast for arsenic pollution. Here, give a one-liner that how Saccharomyces cerevisiae helps in reducing arsenic pollution. If you need spelling of arsenic, here it is. Done? Okay, let's move on to next slide. Before that, there's a doubt in the chat box. Sucrose is also a type of sugar. What do you have to write? You have to write a single line that Saccharomyces cerevisiae is used to reduce arsenic pollution. Yes, fructose is also a simple sugar. It is the sugar which is obtained from fruits. Therefore, it is called as fructose. Okay, let's proceed to the last microbe which is used in bioremediation. Now, this is not yeast. Let me be very clear. This is a bacteria. And let me tell you, I can give you guarantee that in almost all of the schools, this comes in fill in the blanks. And the name of this bacteria is Alcanivorax. ठीक है? How do you pronounce it? It is Alcanivorax. Give it 3 underlines. A-L, Al, C-A-N-I, Cani, and Vorax. Alcanivorax. Now, have you heard about oil spills? Correct. It is also called as oil-eating bacteria. Have you heard about oil spills? What happens in oil spills? Is the oil spill of food oil taking place when it happens in ocean, or it's the crude oil? Is the crude oil correct? Yes. And this crude oil is more thicker in its consistence, more dangerous. So whenever this oil spills happen in oceans, it covers the upper layer of the water, and while it covers the upper layer of the water, it indirectly harms the marine life as well. Now, when I'm speaking about marine life, I am speaking about marine plants as well as marine animals. Now, how are they getting harmed? Because the oil covers the uppermost layer, what happens? There is less penetration of oxygen. And here we use Alcanivorax to eat up this oil. Now we know a bacteria can actually double its population in 20 minutes. And the speciality of this bacteria is that it feeds on crude oil. Therefore, we use this bacteria called as Alcanivorax on oil spills. So as the population of bacteria increases, it eats or it keeps on eating whatever damage has happened to a specific place because of oil spill. Extremely useful. And to be very specific, we use species called as Borkumensis. So the complete name of this bacteria becomes Alcanivorax borkumensis. For this year, you do not have to remember its species name, but you will learn it again in your next year. Done? Write down the name of the bacteria as Alcanivorax. Also mention in bracket, it is also called as oil-eating bacteria. And is used as remedy during oil spills. The genus name is right in front of your screen. Okay, well, let's move on. So we have completed with our bioremediation. The 3 micros which you will have to remember. Now there's a question for you. Please pay attention. What is the question? Now we have studied while bread making, we use the basic ingredient as flour and yeast, correct? And adding and mixing up gives us the major output as bread. And along with bread, we get 2 more things. First one is ethanol and second one is CO2. Ethanol is nothing but it's a type of alcohol. Okay. Now here is the question. We all know that yeast feeds on simple sugar. Is it compulsory that we have to use flour only as source of sugar? What if the sugar source is changed, will the yeast die? Will the yeast try to consume sugar from the other source as well? So if I am removing flour, so one thing is for sure that I'm not going to get bread. But yeast will consume sugar and give two things. One will be ethanol, second will be CO2. These two things will be fixed. Correct? If I'm adding yeast to something, yeast will consume the sugar and it will convert it into ethanol and CO2. Now tell me, what if I'm replacing this flour with a glass of juice? We all know that fruit contains sugar called as fructose, which is also a type of sugar. Yes. Now, will the yeast be able to consume sugar from this fructose? No, it's not soda. It's a simple fruit juice, a fresh fruit juice. Now, the yeast has started consuming sugar. And what is it doing? It will give ethanol and CO2 as an output. Correct? So in the output thing, I will have fruit juice mixed with alcohol and CO2 in it, because I will be obviously closing it. Yes. Now, can I call this mixture of fruit juice, ethanol, and CO2? Since fruit juice is nothing but a liquid. Now, I am having a liquid which is giving me some amount of sugar. I am saying some because yeast has consumed majority of sugar, right? So I am having some amount of sugar. So it will be little sweet in its taste. Amount of alcohol. Now, amount of alcohol will depend till how much time I am keeping the yeast for fermentation. And along with it, I will also have CO2 trapped inside. I will call this mixture nothing but wine. Yes. So what is wine? It is nothing but a simple fruit juice added up with yeast, nicely packed for a while. The more, for the longer time I'm keeping this yeast with fruit juice, the yeast is going to consume more and more sugar. More amount of sugar is consumed. If more amount of sugar is consumed, then what am I getting? More amount of alcohol and more amount of CO2. And this entire product is called as wine. Now the question arises, is this harmful? It again depends on in how much quantity the person is going to consume it. But what you are able to see is the basic process of winemaking. There are a lot many processes as well, unlike clarification, you filter it, you stir it, all those many processes are there, but this is the basic thing how it works. So quickly write down the last statement, that you can either write fruit juice or you can write grapes with yeast will result into fermentation. You will have to write fermentation above the arrow. And what you get is fermented juice, which includes ethanol and CO2, which is togetherly called as, make a bracket and write wine. Now, there is a very interesting question asked over the chat box that if we keep the yeast in the fruit juice for a longer time, the yeast will consume a lot of amount of sugar. So will it be sour or will it be sweet? Now, there are many varieties of wine. It also differs based on whether you are using grape or any other type of fruit. Secondly, there are also different varieties of grapes. So based on which variety grape you are using, the wine will taste different. Also, there are two major categories which you can add. The first one is when you keep yeast for a longer period of time for fermentation, what will happen? Eventually, lot of amount of sugar will be consumed. And in this case, the wine will not taste much sweeter. And you have a type of wine called a sweet wine in which the fruit juice and yeast will be added. The fermentation will take place only for a short period of time. And then the bottle will be sold with seal and pack. So what is happening is we are not letting the yeast to consume all the sugar which is present. So only a very small amount of sugar will be consumed. And if the yeast is going to consume only small amount of sugar, that means it is very clear that only small amount of alcohol will be there. Okay, I hope you have written the final statement here. Now we are going to learn something about ethanol. What is ethanol? Ethanol is a type of alcohol which is produced after fermentation of sugar with yeast, right? Now, are there any uses of ethanol? Yes. Ethanol is very, very important. Why? Because it produces smokeless and high quality fuel. It acts as smokeless and high quality fuel. Besides molasses, what is molasses? Here is the meaning given. Molasses is a thick, dark syrup made during the process of sugar making. It looks very much similar to that of a date syrup. Very consistent, very thick. Okay? So besides molasses, maize, barley, and other grains, many other cereals are even used for fermentation and to obtain ethanol. This is how industrially ethanol is produced, because not every time you can use grapes for ethanol production. So any source of sugar has been taken, yeast is made to ferment it, and ethanol is produced on a larger scale. Quickly write down the meaning of molasses. It's not there in your textbook. One more very good question. Okay? Ethanol is also called, I'm repeating it once again. Ethanol is also called as ethyl alcohol. It's one and the same. So if anytime you get options that in fermentation or in the process of bread making, what is obtained? So even if it's ethanol or ethyl alcohol, both means the same. When we make or prepare bread, we prefer using baker's yeast. Okay, now for the next slide, we have few questions regarding ethanol and grapes and why our winery is situated only at Nashik. So what we'll do is today we'll break it over here since we are already done with the time. We will stop at ethanol and in the next lecture we'll continue from the same slide. All right? Any doubts, please do put it in your chat box. Okay, let's end up the lecture.